Yeah, let's be equal. Oh my gosh. Welcome, everybody. Oh, there's people already here. I'm so excited. Our cat is here, so I'll put him in the camera. Welcome, everybody. So happy to have my partner, Joel,
Right.
with me today. And we're going to be talking about evolutionary love. And do you want to say hi to the people that don't know you? Share
Please,
who
yeah,
you
yeah.
are.
So I have a YouTube channel that I teach about Toltec stuff, and it's a shamanic dreaming arts practice. And I've interviewed quite a few people over there. It's called Perceiver on YouTube, and I teach workshops online and in person. We learn very strange shamanic movements that put you in like a lucid dreaming state, potentially, and they I talk a lot about the Castaneda material as a platform in order to learn and evolve about knowledge of self. And yeah, so I'm out here in LA now and learning more than ever now that I'm in a relationship that's actually functional and healthy, because that's new for me. So it's really exciting times. But I have been doing a lot of work, and similar to what Leigh-Anne's been doing, just from a different lens. Um, and so we were learning so much from each other. So thank you for having me on your channel.
I'm so happy. So I'm going to pull this closer. In the chat, I would love to hear if people can hear us okay. And also would love to hear where people are from. You can just type where you're tuning in from. I know a lot of people from my community will pop on. Oh, yay. Okay, let's see.
Oh yeah, I know this
Oh,
name.
thank you so much. Yeah, feel free to type as much or as little as you want to in the chat.
Cool.
Audio is great. Thank you so much. Yeah, because we're a little far away from the computer. Oh, Christine's here. Yay, Long Beach. Okay, so keep sharing in the chat. I also was really wanting to know if people are familiar with their astrology charts. I really would love to hear what your Venus placements are. And I'll remind again, but Joel and I both have Venus in Scorpio. And so this whole topic of, oh, yay, I'm so happy to see you. I recognize Tanya from Germany. Joel and I both have Venus in Scorpio, which actually really ties into the topic of evolutionary love quite a bit. And so I'm just curious to know what your Venus placements are, if you wouldn't mind sharing, because that has everything to do with relationships. Oh, Dan, so happy to see you. Good. Okay, so we'll probably be on for about an hour. We'll see today. But I wanted to, before we dive in and I start to ask you questions, I wanted to share with people what evolutionary love means. And so this might be new for people tuning in. Maybe some of your people will come over. And I wanted to name it Evolutionary Love because that's the title that you chose when you had me on your podcast. Do you remember? And so I don't actually use evolutionary love too much. I know that Laura and Bernhard, my colleagues, do. They like that term. I typically use conscious relationships to describe the work that I do and the way that I work with relationships and help people, but it's really kind of the same thing. So you can use them interchangeably. But wow, I didn't really know how to do relationships at all in any way, shape, or form. And that became very obvious to me in 2014 when my marriage collapsed. Heidi, so good to see you. Yay. Okay, so let me just see the chat. Venus conjunct Saturn and Jupiter in the 8th house. Wow. Okay, that's really cool. 8th house is all about Scorpio. So we'll get to Scorpio in a moment because Scorpio is the alchemist. But I didn't know how to do relationships at all, romantic relationships in particular, but really relationships as a whole have been a struggle with me. And maybe you can, what is the ask about Venus? So, Christine, I'm asking everyone if they know what their Venus placements are, if you can share along the way, because Venus has everything to do with relationship style. So I didn't really even understand what evolutionary relationships meant until probably 3 years into picking myself up off the ground when I hit rock bottom, when my marriage collapsed. And that was such a humbling moment for me because I woke up to the reality that I had no idea how to do relationships at all. And so I had to start from the ground up. And it wasn't until probably 3 or 4 years in that I came across a book by Robert Augustus Masters called Transformation Through Intimacy. And that's a good book. It's not one of my top books that I recommend, but I share it here because that was the first time that I ever came across this idea that you can actually use relationships to transform, to heal, and to grow. And for me, like, I remember the exact moment where I was when I read that quote. I think it was like on the first page or two, where he shares that relationships are actually here because, like, for the purpose of helping us to heal and helping us to grow. And I like was like, oh my God, my whole body knew, and I got goosebumps because I was just like, oh my God. It just, everything made sense, and all of the pain and all of the suffering that I had experienced in relationships up until that moment there was meaning to it all of a sudden. Like, I was like, oh my God, I understand why everything had to happen that way. And it was really a moment for me. So from that day forward, I really changed the way that I participated in relationships, and then started to teach it. And I didn't even plan on teaching relationships. At the time, I was running women's circles, and the women started to come to me because we would have honest conversations in the women's circles about, I had just gone through a divorce, and like they watched me like pick myself back up. And so women started to come to me for private sessions to talk about relationships. And so there was so much that I learned through that process because I really believed I was the only person who didn't know how to do relationships. I had such shame about that. But then through that process of running women's circles, I started to realize actually most people don't know how to do relationships. And so it was huge for me. And so that was back in 2017. I actually started to specialize in relationships. So evolutionary relationships are different because we have this vantage point to know that relationships are here for us. They're not here to drive us crazy, right? They're not here as something that's just nice to have in our lives. Like they serve an evolutionary purpose because we all know that relationships to varying degrees stir up all of our stuff. All of our stuff gets shaken up in relationships, as opposed to when we're solo, when we're sitting in the cave, right? We don't have the friction of the other, as we say, to bring up all of our stuff. And so the mindset right off the bat for that is so big, because we can choose to either be in victim mentality, which I was for years, of like, all this stuff is happening to me, right? I'm the victim and like, poor me. Or we can choose to understand it's happening for our highest good. It doesn't always feel good, but it's definitely happening for us. And so, like, when I teach about the mirror, it's not that Joel is a mirror of me, but he's holding the mirror up so that I can see myself better. And so I can see my blind spots is really why relationships exist, because otherwise we can't. And so this is relational shadow work. So let's just pause for a moment and look at the chat. There's a lot of chats. Oh, I'm so happy people are here. Okay. Venus and Capricorn. That's right, Christine. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, Dan says no pain, no gain. That's certainly right. Okay, so Heidi, Venus and Cancer. Yeah, in the 12th house. Wow. That's a heavy hitter. Yeah, so anyway, for people who are tuning in, your Venus placement will really teach you about how you show up in relationships, in addition to like what you're here to heal, you know. And so, for example, Venus in Cancer is the archetype of the mother. That's the feminine. And so there's a lot in there. Heidi, I hope you can come to our breath work when we welcome Cancer in, because we're going to talk about that. And so, okay, so keep typing in the chat as you hear Joel and I talk today. If you have any comments or questions, please let us know. But yeah, I just want to, there's a million directions that we could go, but do you want to share anything about how do you conceptualize evolutionary relationships? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's multiple aspects to our being like there's the nonlinear side of us. So the emotional is, I think, the doorway to the subconscious often. And I so it feels like, when two people are brought together in order to truly learn about themselves, then it leads to, like, falling in love with the way in which you, because you can go further together than you can by yourself. And it's the kind of bond that allows you to, not only know yourself through the process of the reflection, but you could very likely in the higher states be able to go into other layers of the onion together, or to get to know each other's parallel lives. So to me, the evolutionary part is that it unlocks the secrets of perception, because you're in such heightened states of intensity. I mean, that's what lovemaking is essentially teaching you how to go into particular trance states that you wouldn't know about by yourself. So it's dangerous. It's intense to get that close to somebody. So you almost have to become really mature and sober to do this, and be really clear of all the different things that can happen along the way that could potentially make it sabotage, or you might sabotage, or other things might try to get in the way of it. So it's a very vulnerable obstacle course to be conscious of. And I've shared this with Leigh-Anne's community before, but shamans don't typically do this. It's so difficult, but they do figure out ways to go into other worlds in other ways in large groups. So sweat lodge communities, sometimes there's a partner that's leading the sweat, and the person in that sweat is, like, if the sweat lodge person is too focused on the partner in that group, then they won't be able to hold space for the ceremony. So the balance of being able to be in a partnership without getting lost in each other, so you can't be of service to the whole, like, that's a real delicate thing I've seen with really powerful couples in a spiritual setting, where they weren't able to keep that balance. So it's just such a, like, we're kind of relearning or unlearning systems in order to gain access back to something that I think has been lost throughout time and is coming back. It's just like the awareness around all sides.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think that Joel and I, in our own ways, have been watching codependency from the start, and so I'll get to that in a moment. But just what was coming through earlier as I was thinking about our share today is, like, Joel and I are older now. Like, I'm 47, he's 48. And I was really thinking about, I don't know if it's possible or necessary to actually have this type of relationship right from the beginning. Like, it actually wouldn't, like, one day if we model this to our kids and everyone, it will, like, things are changing, right? Because the potential for why relationships are here as an evolutionary vehicle, so that we can heal, so that we can grow together, is, I believe, where we're headed. And I do believe that we're shifting from maybe the more masculine paths of enlightenment into a more feminine way of the heart through relationships. Not that it's feminine equals woman, but just through the path of relationships. It's a very different path than going into a cave, and meditating in that has its place. And I actually think it's all in right timing, the way that it's unfolding. But this is it's actually kind of cutting edge the way that it's happening. And so we're older, we're more mature. We came to each other and we had gone through divorces. Life had already worked on us. We had learned lessons in love that we didn't want to repeat. I had to learn through the fire. And I know that in his own way, he did too. So when we came together, it was what I call the reverse honeymoon, which is that we came together and we're not here to play games. Like, we're here to be real and truthful, which is a very different way from the way most people get together. And there's like so much to be said for the current dating culture and all of that. And I do think that there's a beauty to like when you come together and you fall in love. Like I do have a very romantic side of me that loves that, and I would never teach in a way such that I'm trying to remove that from the equation. And we have a lot of fun together and adventures, and we have from the beginning, so it wasn't all hard work. But there was this element of like, we're not going to play games. And so everything immediately with he and I started to come up at the beginning. And so we did have a few hard first months where we were getting through a lot of stuff. And so this is what I call the reverse honeymoon, is that it actually get like the realness. Usually what happens is that there's a honeymoon phase where there's a lot of golden projections going on, and it's actually not real, which is, I have compassion for that. I've done that too in the past, but we weren't doing that at the beginning. We were trying to the best of our ability to see each other with clear eyes. And so we got to the stage where like everything starts to come up and you really start to know the person like pretty quickly. So what happens is that when you go through that, all of your stuff might come up, but then as you work through it, you create space. And I do feel like he and I have gotten to a place where it actually is, we're building that foundation and we're building trust in each other through the process, which I needed. And I knew, then I shared that with him at the beginning. I need time to see how we're going to get through life together. And so for me, it allowed to be able to see that we could get through bumps in the road was really important to me. Do you want to share anything about the beginning stages?
Well, I mean, yeah, when you're, I think when you are not letting other people project, and you're independent as a, conscious person, you just realize that it's important to not cover up anything that get any triggers that occur, and that you speak to them rather than try to come up with a strategy to avoid them. It's uncomfortable, but it works if you start having really intense conversations right off the bat. Because if you're going to travel together in this world or in other worlds, or however, you want to make sure you know that person. So it's just, it just worked out that way. I think spirit guides it this way, to where it's like, I love the word or the idea of reverse honeymoon, but I think there's guidance with everything. So when it's meant to be that way, then it'll, present the things that need to be faced. And there's sort of also this aspect of, feeling the need to exit because it's actually healthy and it doesn't feel like anything, for me, that I'd ever experienced. So that kind of gets tied into it and it gets confusing, like what triggers versus what the heart stuff is happening. And it's not an easy path to navigate. You have to really have like conversations with yourself. You need alone time, to go through sort of your own process. Otherwise you can, but I did, I had mentors to help me through it as well. I didn't try to figure it out all on my own. So it's a lot.
Yeah, I recommend for sure having like some other person that supports you. So we both have our people, because processing just with the two of you can be a lot. It doesn't need to be that way. Like having someone really take some of the pressure off of that. To have always to always be processing, which can be intense, but at the same time, like we have very deep conversations and we're honest with each other. So it's not an either or thing where you can never have conversations with your partner. Like communication is really big for us, and we're still learning how to, like Joel called it translation at the beginning of like our ultimately we actually speak more of the same language than we think, but we also have a lot of differences. So sometimes the translation's necessary. I just want to see what people are typing in the chat here. Oh, someone said that we're a beautiful pair. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. Oh, I love all of these beautiful. Yeah, so the reverse honeymoon is something that I actually first heard from one of my colleagues, Michael Bates. years ago, and it was just something that really fit, and he was going through it with his partner. And so I do think that this is going to be the case more often, even though what you say is true, is like, you don't necessarily want to force it, but then like if you come real to someone from the very beginning, it's just by definition going to change the relationship. And I think with more and more people understanding that the current way of dating and all of that isn't working so well, in addition to the rise of personal development, spirituality, shadow work, inner work, I do think that more people are actually naturally going to find their way into conscious relationships, right? And so we don't do it for like the label, like we're not doing it for the label. And there, I think there still is this misconception that conscious relationships are, peaceful and like meditative and rainbows and butterflies. And that's actually not the case at all. They're very difficult, and they're not, I always say they're not for the weak-willed. It takes a lot of consciousness, time, and energy. And also it's the path for humans, because we're so human. So there's not like, if relationships are here for humanity to heal and to evolve, then like the path is going to be super messy, because it's basically you're doing intense shadow work with somebody, right? That's super vulnerable. All of your stuff's going to come up. And so it's just a lot. It's a lot to go through. And so I think you mentioned earlier about how maybe there's a preparation process to be ready for this, which I think we're still kind of going through. I mean, this is like, there's heights and there's depths that we're exploring that I've never traversed before. So, with people who come to what I call the new paradigm of relationships, the people who are co-creating it, this path is for everybody who has a willingness, and it requires humility to know that you're going to stumble and fall, and you're going to stumble and fall. Like, because people haven't really, we don't have models of this way of relating. And so it's almost like it's the trailblazer thing of like, you're chopping down trees to create the path, and you just have to trust, and you have to be led by your heart and your intuition and what you know is right. And so, I mean, just, we show up, and we're actually kind of private people, but the reason why we're showing up is because we know there aren't very many models. And we want to show you guys that it's really human, that we're human. We're human. And it's like really, it stretches you. So that's also the thing I just wanted to share, is that you do have to mix fun into it, and you have to mix like we laugh a lot, and we try to have fun and balance the seriousness with lightness as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of adventures to have, and there's so many cool conversations that can lead to sadness and laughter, right? So it's just getting into those deeper depths of getting to know each other on that level, but we're challenging each other inside of that too, just by the fact that we are still in translation, I think, around just how we perceive the world and how we think, like what our focus is, and figuring out how to dance together so that we understand each other and have the ability to have magical compromises rather than like get into the world of thinking. So I appreciate what you said about pouring into each other. It's like there's an awareness there instead of like expectations. So you're wanting to show up. It's not a battle or like you're trying to like play chess with each other's power dynamics. But that subconscious material is there to come into contact with, just by the fact that we're all blueprinted by the relationships that we see around us. So it's confronting across the board, but yeah, the laughter is critical. Finding a way to go into the silly side of things and see each other's mess, and so yeah.
Yeah, Joel and I have a lot of fun together. I mean, I think that like there's new teachings coming through as a result of you and I together. And so like one thing that became clear when we first came together, well, first of all, we knew that we were brought together for definitely for a reason. Like, we're not trying to be any kind of way when we say this, but it was very clear, and also in our charts, that we are here to actually show the world and to teach. And we're both teachers, like, separately in our own way, but like, we are here to model the path. And it's good because it's like, we're all that we need to do is show up and be real with you all, right? Like, we're not fake people. We're not trying to fake it for you. Like, we're here and we're trying to be real about the path, and to be able to show you, like, what we have gained wisdom along the way of our path, and we're still on the path. I'm going to be on the path till my last day. And but we do have some things that, at least for me, because I'm devoted to relationships, I do know some things that are real for us. Like, I do understand that humanity can't continue to cling in codependency in order to move forward, right? It's not that that any of us should feel ashamed if we are running it. And like, it's not also that you either are or aren't codependent. It's like a spectrum. Like, I'm somewhere, along that path, but there are certain things that have been shown to me that, to flip it in a positive way, it's just an invitation to evolve, right? There is another way to relate, and it doesn't have to be codependent. And so when we can start to learn this and understand that this truly is a spiritual path, it is a spiritual path towards wholeness. And so I've spoken at length about codependency, and we'll share links as well in the description later if people are new to my work, if you want to go into the foundations of the way I teach. But it's absolutely possible. I mean, we're in real time, we're practicing to the best of our ability to not be codependent. And so Joel mentioned earlier about having to take alone time. I teach quite a bit about the dance of union and separation. This was something that came through in 2017 for me. As a protection against codependency, it was shown to me that you have to be able to have a balance of union, which is like the ability to be close, to actually open your heart and let yourself be seen by someone. So you have to develop that muscle to be able to do it. Maybe not 100% of the time, but you have to be able to develop the ability to be close and intimate to another person. In addition to the separation part of it, is taking time to also go back into your own energy. And so union is deep intimacy with a partner. And then the separation is going back into your own energy. And so it's a dance, because in a relationship, it's the pendulation between these two states that are really important. And on the tantric paths, they also teach that you can't actually be in union or sexual union all the time, because that actually will burn down the relationship, which is very true. It will destroy things. There's a multitude of reasons why. But, ultimately, this is a path of soul evolution. And so while we love each other very much, at the end of the day, it is actually about our soul and what our souls need. And so for those of us that have patterns in relationships where we've abandoned ourselves, or I did a lot of like deeply abandoning myself on a soul level. And I think that he had that too. So that was something, when we came together, we knew that it was almost like we made this declaration to ourselves that we're not going to do that anymore. And so, like, I think that you said it recently, I can't remember where, but it's like also another protection against codependency is, instead of making your partner your God, you actually have a relationship with God and source that's primary, right? That's primary. And then the relationship with each other actually fits perfectly within that, which is a little too deep to get into here. But if you don't have that connection, you're more prone to codependency or putting people on pedestals. So let's look at the chat quickly and see. Yeah, keep typing in here. There's a lot here. Okay, so I recently dated a man who had absolutely zero interest in, like, extreme resistance to looking into any of okay, yeah. So basically you're saying he didn't have any interest in this, aware of the self-limiting patterns through life, but no desire to grow. I left. This is really big. So I don't know if you're a man or a woman, but certainly there's a conversation happening on the collective where people are People need to be with partners who also are at least, you don't have to be carbon copies of each other, but if you're here for this path of growth and evolution, then yeah, you need someone who's also open to that. I taught a class that was, it was called Matrix Relationships versus Higher Love. And one of the aspects, because I shared like how consensus reality relationships go versus more of this path. And so we called it like fixed mindset to fixed mindset people versus growth mentality and growth mentality. So if you're with someone and you have a growth mindset, but they're fixed, it's going to cause a lot of problems. The person has to also be open to growing. So thank you for sharing. Laughing together daily is important. Yeah, so good. Love the opportunity to play, enjoy, have fun. Yeah, I know, Christine, it's so important. The dance metaphor. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all so much for sharing. Yeah, the soul abandonment thing is so real, right? I mean, for me, that feeling is devastating. Like I felt it, right? And I saw it. And that was actually the most painful thing beyond the hurt that I've experienced from other people in relationships. It felt devastating when I recognized that I was abandoning my soul. Do you want to talk about anything with your experience of doing that?
Oh, well, I mean, I was in seeking shamanic teachers. I was very much, for whatever reason, my pattern became really quickly that I was self-abandoning, and giving them the power over my decisions for whatever reason. I had really loving parents, and I didn't have a lot of abandonment in the beginning, but then they left me with my sister, and maybe on a deep level that led to me seeking this dynamic with cult teachers, but kind of like because my parents exited the scene a little bit. So I was looking for parents because my sister wasn't serving as the parent really. In fact, she's the reason why things got started really quickly. Is she took me to parties when I was 13 and left me there to be raised by the party kids. And my sister's boyfriend woke me up in the middle of the night to teach me how to drink when I was 12. And so, my life got really adventurous really quickly. I was hanging out with a lot of intense people. So a lot of self-abandonment as far as like letting older people and their influence affect my ability to make decisions that were healthy for me or not. And so, yeah, just that's been a pattern that's been hard to recapitulate that stuff, go back into and reclaim my essence from those moments. That's kind of the focus of my work, is to, yeah, develop healthy boundaries after a life of not having any boundaries whatsoever. So that's, yeah, the tricky part of this work is just being able to have the aloneness and not need others to validate you, and coming out of that old storyline and becoming my own person after not really being my own person. And then I was celibate for a lot of time for lots of different shamanic reasons. And that was powerful, but also sort of, just extreme. And so different forms of abandonment happen when you're like culty or follow or trying to be too spiritually extreme in certain ways. So there's a lot to get into there.
Yeah, I remember, one of the first kind of challenges that we faced together was, we won't get into the details, but I actually eventually was like so grateful because he told me, he's like, I have to do this for me. And in the past, I would have abandoned myself and just did whatever you wanted me to do. And I actually love that so much. So for me, that was like a really good sign, even though it was difficult. And it was also nuanced because there was a lot of layers to it. But for me, that was a really good sign. And so like, I would never want my partner to abandon himself. Like I would never want anyone to do that. So for me, it's a huge red flag in relationships where there is, ultimately we're the ones who make the choice to do that. But the reality is that there is pressure from the other person, right? It's like we don't live in a vacuum. There is pressure from the other person to cause you to do that. And so it's a thing. It's like it's a co-creation, of course, but I loved that about you. And I think in relationships, it's like this dance too, because I've seen it in my own life and also with the clients that I work with, that if sometimes we have a history of self-abandonment, then what we can do is we can swing a little bit too, like to the other side of the pendulum, where it's hard for us also to kind of be in that healthy middle of like, I'm going to care about myself and take care of myself, but also be in relationship with you, and to be able to consider like self and other. It can be like when you're all the way over here, sometimes we swing and then we have to learn how to come into more balance. And it's a journey and it takes a while, but I just wanted to name that. There's a really good comment here. Definitely have done, hold on. I've come to learn I'm not in fear of abandonment so much as fear of betrayal. Huge. I can really relate to that too. And this relates, as I'm sure you're aware, to the different attachment styles. Fear of betrayal is like so huge, because when we actually have real experiences where we've been betrayed, it can be very hard to trust people. And so I think, even if you don't even relate to being betrayed, I think for most of us as humans, building the ability to trust the other person is a very common thing. And I think Joel and I are even like I feel myself going to deeper and deeper layers of being able to trust him. And like the ability for, certainly for a woman, to be able to trust her man, to be able to open, right, and open in the bedroom and open her heart. She has to be able to trust him. And so that's huge. But it's the same for men too. I mean, if men don't trust a woman, then they're not going to be able to open their heart either. There's so much more that, let's see where we are. We're doing pretty good on time. So is there anything else you want to share? I have like a million things.
I mean, I'll let you cue off the notes there and keep going.
Oh gosh. Okay. We covered the reverse honeymoon. I mean, I do think that Joel and I have, I wrote devotion to truth and love. We kind of already covered that, because at the beginning, like, we're not here to like mess around and do these weird things. Like I would much rather hear truth than not. But as I talk about quite often, the frequency of truth is very hard for people to stand in. It's very hard for most people to stand in. And I find it funny sometimes that people who claim to be on the truther side of things, like, wouldn't be able to handle this kind of, like, they might be into truth out there, but when it comes to truth in this way, it's a very different thing. It can be very confronting. So we have to build our nervous system's ability to stand in truth. And it actually isn't like it's not like you have to like wake up and do it. You can actually attune your nervous system to be able to stand in truth. And I also use breath work to do this. Breath work for me also works on the nervous system level, because it brings me right back to truth, the truth of who I am. And then I can build my capacity to hold that, right? As well as hold love. And at the higher levels, truth and love actually become one and the same. They're not these two separate things, but like on the 3D level, they seem like they're separate, but they're actually become one and the same at the higher levels. But yeah, I mean, this is a path of truth and love together. And it's difficult for a lot of people, but it's like you can work your way up to it, is what I'm saying. I wasn't able to stand in the frequency of truth for a long time. I actually was kind of forced to, in ways, because of certain things that happened in my life that were just like ripped everything from under me. Even so, looking back, truth always wins, is what I say. So we sometimes don't have a choice. But when you understand the way that the universe works in terms of truth always wins, then you understand how to actually move towards it rather than run away from it. And you can build your capacity to do it. But if we demand truth from the outside world and from our partner, we also have to be able to receive truth as well. Yeah. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, knowledge is power. And truth is truth and knowledge are similar ideas and similar frequency things. So like you do develop a relationship with power, it's electrical. You start to align, you heal your system. You're able to tell when you're being, when something's off or when it feels coherent. You become like a tuning instrument. You can sense and feel things on a deeper and deeper level. So we're just purifying our field to be able to handle the intensity of living a life like that. It is very illuminating, and takes getting used to being turned to be activated all the time instead of like, it's how you learn to live in heightened awareness. And so Toltecs say knowledge is not information, knowledge is power, and it's a relationship with that power. So eventually you clear the inventory of all the ideas, and you're so present that you couldn't possibly be entertaining too much mental intellectual stuff. It goes into the realm of pure feeling. So we're learning how to explore, or preparing ourselves to tap into the deeper aspects of our being by learning healing our nervous system enough to be able to handle the intensity of all that love, all that ecstasy. It's a lot of energy. You need to be able to go down into the earth and ground and balance the high with being able to anchor yourself, which is amazing. Like every day is equally magical when you're able to do that. You don't need to go on vacations and stuff. Your life becomes super heightened. It's not for everybody, and it's okay. It's like a secret. We're all gravitating towards these truths that are very liberating.
Yeah, I know. The people who come to me are here for sure, because you're in the right place if you're here. And even if you listen to us and you're like, wow, that seems like a lot or whatever, it's like, it's really, we're co-creating this together. And I always say with this path, like we are co-creating this new paradigm right now together. And like the exciting thing for me is when I work with people, the work works through you in the exact way that it's meant to, so that you can be a steward of this work, right? And I mean, it's not that most of us don't run to this path because it's like fun, right? Like we're drawn to this path because this is where life has nudged us, and it's obvious to us. But yeah, he talks about grounding into the earth, and then there's these seeming dichotomies of like pain and suffering and going into the shadow or the descent part of it, which is part of it. We can't skip that part, but there's also, the more that you go down, you free up so much space for the ascent and the upper limit stuff that we've been talking about, the upper limit problem, and like how much love can you actually receive. And like I shared in the private group the other day, I feel like someone's like stretching my heart open, and it's so uncomfortable to be able to feel the intensity of love in this relationship. And also when we look into each other's eyes, and to be able to see at that level of seeing with clear eyes is so confronting. It's so vulnerable for another person to be able to see you. If it's just in an everyday thing or during lovemaking. And Joel and I will start to teach more also about sexuality as well. Maybe not going super deep today, but like it's profoundly healing. It's profoundly healing in a container of deep love and trust with another person. It's just something that I can't really put words to. But there's something else that you shared. Yes, this is the thing about the truth. So, I mean, I think that there's, even though we're all at different points, right, in our timeline, humanity is becoming more sensitive, more energetically sensitive, which is such a beautiful thing. And so we are able to sense the frequency of truth versus falsehood more and more. And certainly with what happened in 2020, there was a lot of people that were able to pick that up. If people didn't pick it up immediately, there was many opportunities for people to be able to hone that within themselves. And so we continue to this day to be stretched with our ability in this day and age of information overload and mind control and all of the stuff. Being able to discern between truth and falsehood has never been more important. And I believe that humans are able to do it. There's a lot of things that are trying to interfere with our ability to do that. But this is where we're naturally being headed. This is where we're naturally headed. And so I do think that all the games and the stuff, to be honest with you, it might not happen overnight, but we can feel into this stuff. I can feel into people when they're bullshitting. And I know a lot of you can too. You can feel, you can get in tune with your body, with your heart, feeling into energy. And so I know that there's a lot of BS happening in the world of dating and love right now. But the higher thing is that I do think that, like I said, truth always wins. And we're getting to the point where we are being forced to stand into truth. And it's not always a bad thing. Like I said, because when you can actually go in and see the stuff that you are being invited to see, there's so much gold in it. There's so much gold in it. So this path has incredible depths to it, but also like heights that I've never experienced before.
Yeah, I mean, the adventures of just, even the world of dating, right? It's such an opportunity to become really liberated within it. You don't have to you can face your people pleasing issues or whatever it is that you have unresolved just by being in a confronting situation where you start to make adjustments to know how your default social behavior used to be. You start to grow and evolve, and you become fearless. So whatever position of experience you're in, you're in a relationship that's powerful, therefore confronting, or you're out in the world like having experiences that are confronting just by dating, there's so much evolution to have inside of all of it, because it's a form of relating. And the more comfortable you are in your own body, then the less likely you're going to be resorting to those default social aspects of your being that are undeveloped, as less developed. And so you end up just developing so much. And then also being able to like turn all that noise off and to stop dating, and just to like really listen to your heart as to what you need to do in order to be prepared. And so we're all in different places for different reasons. And it's sometimes hard to listen to that inner guidance. But when you do, the stronger your intuition becomes, or the more you listen to your intuition, the stronger it becomes. And so it's uncomfortable, but it's so worth, maybe those nights where you're choosing to just be with yourself because deep down that everything else is just a distraction. And we all have this to deal with. Like, do you really need to be listening to the podcast, or do you need to, like, can you just sit with your boredom sometimes? Often that's where you work through the most uncomfortable stuff, and then life gets that much more interesting when you're not avoiding, or you're not choosing distraction over like reality.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's so much like here in this path of relationships where like you also get to, I want to come back to like balancing it with like lots of fun and laughter and playfulness and adventures, because it's true. And like, so when you become conscious in a relationship, or at least more conscious, right? Because we're never 100%. It's not about being perfect, but when you become conscious, you can actually sort of like surrender to the fact that life in your relationship is going to show you what you need to do, right? Like life always serves us the exact material that we need for growth. Like every day will present you with that. But we also get to choose based on like our levels of energy, willingness. Like you don't have to do everything overnight. So like we can trust life is always serving us up the opportunities, the people, the situations that are actually trying to serve our highest good through this path of like, okay, so what is here for me? What is this trying to show me? But you don't have to also get overwhelmed and be like, I have to go all in, because that can also be a trap too. When you trust your life and when you trust the unfolding of your life and understand this is the work of a lifetime. Like until my last day, that there's going to be every single day is going to present us with things to work with. So, but it's for me, it's felt like I'm working with life rather than against it. It's like before when I was really stuck in victim mentality and I didn't understand what was happening. I was like just stuck in this poor me mentality, and I didn't know, and I have so much compassion for that, but it just feels like I'm actually working with life instead of against it. I just also wanted to say, like, this style of relationships, it's all about, I mean, like, it's all to the best of our ability, like, we love each other so much that we genuinely want to lift each other up, right? It's not about trying to drag each other down. I don't know about you all, but I've certainly been in relationships where I feel like the other person's putting a lid on me, like they're triggered by me, they're putting a lid on me, and they're dragging me down. No, there's a lot to be said because everything is co-created, but like this is a relationship where we love and support each other so much that we truly want the best for each other. And so like I feel like we're always trying to celebrate each other.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to read this one.
Thank you all for, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. We're just reading the chat. Thank you all for sharing.
Definitely have done a lot of soul abandonment over the last 2 decades. I've come to learn that I'm not in fear of abandonment. Oh, betrayal. Yeah, we read that. Oh, hey. This is
so cool.
This is Mario or Matan. Hey, Joel. Cool to see you both together chatting at this level of depth and confronting this. Oh my goodness. Yes, I'm trying to show my body we're all safe here, but I feel the armor. It's obviously built up over years of no boundaries and people-pleasing default behaviors, being small for peace.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I did that for so many years. Yeah, I played small and just this is what we do, right? We try to make everyone else super comfortable. Then we play small. It's like a lose-lose for everybody. I really understand the armor. It's kind of like that swing for when we don't have boundaries and then we get run over, we get the wolves, eat us up, and then we have to protect, and it's that swing. And to learn how to open your heart and trust, it's like you have to have also that filter system to be able to have the filter system of discernment, to know that, like, I try to make it super practical. I'm like, when I meet somebody, right, just anyone that I'm going to relate with, like I use my intuition first, and I feel into, is this person someone I want to, right? And then if I do, I go in and I assume the best. And so I enter with an open heart and I assume the best. But at any given moment, we can always pull back, right? We can protect ourselves. And so to be able to like have this agility, right? Of like, you never have to walk around with a totally open heart. That's actually dangerous. But when you can develop your discernment and understand who you can trust, who's proving to you that they're trustworthy, nobody has to be perfect. That's another trap of like needing everyone to do it perfectly, but you can assume the best of people and then make adjustments along the way. This is a big conversation. And so we'll probably stay on for like maybe 5-10 more minutes. If you have direct questions, you can always type them in the chat. And then I also just want to say, Joel and I support people really deeply, one-on-one. And then also we're going to be taking on couples as well that want to work with us. But, and we also both have groups. I have Alchemy of the Heart coming up on Monday. He has his group that you can still jump in, right, to Portal.
Yeah, Portal's available to enter. And we'll both be teaching at Luminous Beings. It's my workshop, but Leigh-Anne's going to be doing a breathwork aspect to it. And that's in the Redwoods in late August. So lots of opportunities. And then in September, if you join the Visionaries, there's an opportunity to come in person for the Visionaries meeting in September. When's that?
Yeah, that's September 19th and 20th. And so the Visionaries is my private community. Joel and I have already been teaching in there. And Joel's doing a men's group in the Visionaries as well. Reach out if you're interested in the membership community. The next time doors are going to be open is August 1st. But if you want to jump in, just reach, we'll talk about it and I can get you in. So Christine saying, learning to love again in a new way and letting love in an ongoing journey. Yeah, it is an ongoing journey. Some days it can be challenging. I love this, Christine, because this is what I feel. I feel like it's not on this path, the way that I do it, it's not about putting pressure on ourselves to do it perfectly every day. Like, especially as a woman, like I go through my cycles of all of the different flavors, right? All of the different seasons. And so, I mean, I just like, it's a day by day thing where some days I have more capacity to show up and like do the hard things, have the hard conversations. Other days I might be triggered, right? And not be able to participate. So just like doing the best that we can, doing the best we can.
Yeah, and then the trust thing that you talked about, ultimately it's not about trusting the other person, it's trusting your intuition, because if you feel trust with someone and then they do something you no longer feel trust with them, your intuition needs to pick that up. So you're not going to blindly trust anyone ever. You just become more and more sensitive to, there's something off. What is it? And then you confront that person because you become psychic. It's kind of confronting, but you share your energy fields. So you're going to know if something happened to that other person's energy field.
Yeah.
And so then but that's the beauty of the opportunity, is that to deceive someone is to deceive yourself. Like everything is a reflection here. So we drop into this pocket of moving into becoming impeccable just by, impeccability is within the communication. So if something does present in your field and you're not hiding it and you're communicating it, then that person won't have any reason to not trust you. If you're starting to hide stuff, then there's going to be confusion around that trust. And so that our intuition is just everything.
I love that. I mean, that's why communication is actually so important as well, to be able to know that if it's true that the field of the relationship holds everything, spoken and unspoken, the other person is going to be able to feel, right? If they're tuned in. Yeah. Not everybody is, but I mean, that's why I think for us, we have a dedication to speaking truth, because we understand we're both so sensitive, we're going to be able to feel it anyway. So you might as well have just direct, clear, loving, open communication with each other. That just to start to close, like, I'm so grateful that everyone showed up. Thank you so much. Yeah. The last thing that I want to share, and we have so much more that we can share with you all, like so much more. I just want to say that bumps in the road are not always a bad thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. I do think that even for me coming into this relationship, understanding through my own stuff with what I learned through relationships, if you're more on the conflict avoidance side, bumps in the road feel very scary, very scary. Like you're just like, this is why we do all the things to keep everything smooth. This is why we sweep things under the rug, because we equate bumps in the road with danger, mm-hmm. with the relationship. Something's wrong, right? Something's wrong, right? And that this might end for some reason. But Joel and I have both really learned that bumps in the road are not always a bad thing. In fact, really, it's just an invitation for, to be honest with you, it's an invitation for massive growth and to build trust in the relationship. When you lean into the bumps in the road, you don't try to avoid them, and you go into conflict resolution with a whole different mentality. It's not dangerous, so we can face this. We trust ourselves and the other person to know we can get through it, right? We have that maturity. And to also understand, not in every case, but a lot of times it's just an invitation for you to up level. Actually, that's kind of what has happened in our relationship. Every time there's been a bump in the road that we've been able to get through, we've totally risen to the next level. Mm-hmm. So, and this is work that we can do with people, right? I know, like listening to a YouTube video, it's like the stuff is, maybe you understand it intellectually, but a lot of people are like, well, how do I do this, right? There's a lot to pretty much all the stuff that we shared today, but it is possible. And I think that the main thing I can give you today for getting through bumps in the road is to know when you're able to humbly take personal responsibility to own your side of the street, because bumps in the road don't usually happen out of nowhere. It's because relationships are two people coming together and shaping the thing. It's a co-created dynamic. And so when we face things and conflict, when we can be able to see our side of the street and take ownership of that, it really prevents the classic like finger pointing, and then you're at war with each other. So it's not that we don't ever have to like say, hey, that didn't feel good, what you did. That's part of a healthy relationship, actually. But we also can own our side of things. It really diffuses things quite a bit. And that's actually then the material that we work with to do our healing and to do our inner work. Because if I co-created that based on like my wounding, then if I can see that clearly, it's helpful for me to see that, to work with it.
Yeah, for sure. It's if you're not projecting or trying to blame somebody else, then you get to be really honest with what triggers are happening and what's happening to your nervous system because of it. You just bring it back to you, and then you learn to communicate that rather than try and expose them. And then there's like this emotional vulnerability that makes it feel safe for everybody to just talk instead of try to win the argument or win, the court case. It's not about that.
That's so beautiful. I love that. It really does, about how you said that it creates more vulnerability. Yeah. If I vulnerably am like, man, I just got like so triggered. It stirred up this about this that happened. I mean, it's like, it's a whole different ball game, right? Than if you're trying to, and obviously with great compassion, we're not taught any of this. So it's not about having shame. But we definitely had to learn through doing it the wrong way so many times. So that's why we're here. I think we're going to wrap up soon, but let me just see here. I really want to work with you both. He'll need more time. Yeah, that's okay. If the other person needs more time, that's totally fine. That's why we work with individuals a lot, and you can make a lot of progress even if you're one person of a couple. And they're not fully on that page. That's okay. We can do a lot of individual work.
Yeah.
I hate conflict, but I know it's imperative for healthy growth. Authentically showing up and communicating clearly. Yeah, I know. Oh gosh, took me, I have to be honest with you that all of this stuff that I'm teaching you took me some time. I've personally, it depends for all of us on how much trauma, how much stuff we've been through. We're all at different places, right? I did have to go through some years of therapy to really unhook from a lot of my stuff. But I always have shared with people like what works for me. Breath work as well has been totally life-changing, in addition to I've worked with like every person, every type of healer, etc. But I mean, every step forward counts. So it all matters. So I think we're going to start to wrap up, but like, if you have any questions, please just reach out to me, to Joel. You can email us. I'll put all of our contact information in the description. And yeah, there's going to be more that we're going to be sharing with all of you. So thank you so much for coming, everyone.
Yeah, good to see you all. Appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out in our chat. And yeah, we'll be sharing on my YouTube channel as well in the future. And I'm going to be having Jason Bashir's on my channel for my first YouTube live this month, and then start sharing a lot more over there. And so I hope you can follow us over there as well. And we'll just be staying in touch. So have fun out there. Much love.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
See you guys.